We survived 4 months of brutal dry season in Ghana, right? But how did our plants take it? We're going to give you a tour of what plants survived and actually thrived. So come along. So we have our first surviving plant, hardy sweet potato. It was one of the first plants we grew, and you can see that they dried out, but we have new leaves coming. Even Fertility the cat is hanging out there. And we've been using the leaves even throughout the dry season to cook. If you don't know by now that sweet potato leaves are edible, they are. And now that the rains are here, I'm sure we'll get some tubers in no time. Sweet potatoes are very hardy, so if you ever want to plant any tuber, they don't require a lot of work. So my rosemary plant survived. And I'm so happy because it didn't need a lot of water to thrive in the dry season. And if you come here, there's this green, which is called water leaf. It's called boko boko in Ghana, and you can use this in your soups and your stews, and it's basically like a weed. We don't plant this, it just like self-seeds. So come, let me show you some other herbs. Another cool herb, our mighty African basil here. And you can see that it's come from the dry season, but come rain or shine, it survives. It's a hardy plant. It's self-seeding, so it grows like a weed. We don't plant this, it just comes. It's called efirin in Nigeria, and you can use this in your soup, stews. It's got a very strong scent. So this is also another dry season survivor here. And then over there we have some turkey berries that survived. Let me show you. We got some turkey berry seedlings last year, and this is the last surviving one. And it fruited for a bit, but then the weather was just so harsh. But now that the rains are coming, it's flowering again, and we're going to be getting turkey berries in no time. Turkey berries are also meant to be very hardy, like a weed, self-seeding. So we're hoping that it would just spread everywhere on the land because they're such a useful plants to have. It's a rich source of iron, and everybody needs to grow turkey berries. Alrighty, so another herb that survived the dry season, another hardy plant, Mexican oregano, or Cuban oregano actually. And they thrived on very little water, and now they're back. So this is another herb that you can start with if you don't know where to start when you want to get herbs. It's very hardy, and it survives in our very hot climate here in Ghana. And lastly, we have a very, very hardy plant called Piptis suavilans, also known as bushmint. And the amazing thing is we didn't plant this. Just about last year, it popped up on our land, and we found out that it has great medicinal uses. You can drink this to help you recover from colds. And it's also a mosquito repellent. So every time we come here, we take some of the leaves and just crush it and apply it on our hands, and the mosquitoes go away. And it's so amazing because it grows like a weed. It's self-seeding. We don't have to plant this. It really makes you reconsider what you think are weeds and what uses we can get out of them. I mean, who would have thought? Free mosquito repellent.
Right, so this is another thing that survived. Actually, it did really well and grew so much during the dry season. This is passionfruit. So we've got a vine growing all over here. Here's the other passionfruit vine. This one hasn't grown as much, but still doing really well. And down here we have a few surviving strawberry plants. This is basically just an experiment to see if we could have any strawberries growing here in our tropical climates. And we lost a couple of them, but a few still have survived. And here we have an old bathtub, which we use as a worm bin. So you can see it's full of leaves. You can take the leaves off. Right at the bottom here is worm frass, and you can actually see worms in it as well. So you've got a couple of this guy. He's not very happy that I'm disturbing his sleep, but yeah, you've got worms in here. And this is worm frass or vermicompost, and we use this for starting seedlings. They just absolutely love this stuff, and they will grow immensely. So in the dry season, when the worms sort of leave the garden and go deeper into the soil, they find their way into this old tub, and a few of them still survive during the dry season. All right, so here behind me is our experimental fruit orchard. This system is still quite young, about 9 months old, but it's already proving to be one of the most biodiverse and productive spots we have in the house. Originally, we had 2 large pioneer trees, a eucalyptus tree and a leucaena tree, and they were shading up this entire 30 by 30 foot area. And so the idea was to replace these 2 trees and put in as many fruit-producing trees as we could. So using principles and ideas from permaculture, agroforestry, and backyard orchards, we put in 15 trees. So we have 3 rows of 5 trees spaced 10 feet apart. And in here we have citruses like orange, lemon, lime, tangerines. We have tropical fruits like jackfruit and cashew. And then we have other fruits like pomegranate, mulberry, and avocados. All right, so besides water retention and nutrient cycling, the most important thing to productivity in a system like this is the efficiency of sunlight. To achieve that, we thought about putting the system into various layers. So at the first level, right at the bottom, close to the ground here, you can think of something like herbs. Then we have another layer of trees, fruit trees, which are about 5 feet tall. Then we have another layer at 8 feet tall. And then we have the emergent layer of things like pawpaw, which tower above everything and have leaves that are sparse enough to still allow sunlight to come into the system. As the system matures, we'll also see more vines playing a role in the system. But for now, we have grapevines growing between the 2 trunks of the large trees we cut back.
And even though we had a dry season for 4 months and our young tree seedlings are still young and can't give us fruits, we did harvest quite a few fruits. So we harvested coconuts, we made coconut oil with them. We harvested quite a few bananas, pawpaws, and remember Tom's experimental bottle irrigation that we did? If you haven't seen that video, you can check it out on our channel. Stick around if you want to see how the plants are doing, because we're going to show you at the end, okay?
And finally, we come to why the garden is wild. If you've been wondering, there is a method to all of this madness. And I'll give you 3 reasons why we decided to let it all go wild. The first one is fertility. You can think about it in nature. Things are left to fallow, things go wild, and fertility is boosted. How does this happen? Well, you can look at the leaves of plants like this. They are like solar panels, capturing all of that sunlight, photosynthesizing, and all of that energy goes down into the roots and exudates are produced. And that feeds soil life. Soil life, in turn, provides all the nutrition that the plants need. The second reason is biomass. What I mean by biomass is, look at all of this greenery around me. I mean, it's just massive and it's amazing. And when we come in here to finally grow the vegetables we want to grow this season, we're going to chop all of this down. It's all going to come right down. And this is going to improve soil structure. That's an amazing resource that we have right on site, and we don't have to bring in anything. Now, the third reason is to keep pockets of biodiversity. We have all sorts of insects flying around, butterflies, praying mantises, skimmers, dragonflies, and so many other things I'm not even aware of. And they are all finding their little homes in some of the crevices of these plants. You know, they're hiding, tucked away in all sorts of places. And that's why we left this. And these insects are crucial because some of them are pollinators, some are biological control for various pests and diseases. And so if you have a habitat on site, it makes it easy to get the garden going again when the season starts. And one more bonus point, shade. We decided to let the garden wild out so we'll have some shade during the dry season. The shade protects our young seedlings from the harsh sun and also creates a microclimate for both the plants and the wildlife that are in here during the dry season. All right, so it's been 4 months of dry here on our farmhouse in Accra, and we actually survived, I think, fine, right?
Yeah.
We survived fine. So in order to actually do 4 months of dry season, we had to figure out how much water we use in a month. And so that wasn't too difficult. We've got a 600-gallon gravity tank. We fill that, I think,
twice a week? Sorry.
Twice. Is it twice a month? Yes, twice a month. So every 2 weeks, we have to pump and fill this tank from our big reservoir tank. 600 gallons every 2 weeks is 1,200 gallons a month. And that's what we
Roughly
survive
what
on.
we use
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
And since we catch our own water, we are very conscious about how we use it. Like it has to last up for 2 weeks. I mean, Tom is like the captain of our ship saying, hey, you got to be really frugal with the water. So if we do like laundry, we would reuse the water, use that to flush.
Yeah.
And one thing that really drains a lot of water is flushing. The tank of the toilet holds like a lot of water. So if you just flush that just for one pee, like that's very wasteful. So instead of doing that, you could just take a little bucket and just flush. And
or nature, you can come out.
Exactly. That's the benefit of living on a farmhouse. Bath is also another thing that wastes a lot of water. You could use less water to bath. So we tend to reduce how much water we use. Even though it's like really hot and you can take like a bath twice in a day, because we reduce how much water we use, we're able to get
I think
by
it's
really
roughly
nicely.
like half a bucket.
Yes, like half a bucket or something. And
We've got a shower somewhere in the house, but most of the time we'll actually do like a bucket bath.
Exactly. And we know that in the dry season there's nothing like we have an inflatable pool for our daughter. Like that's not the time to fill it up with water and start having fun. So we wait for the rainy season to be able to do that. So it's just a general mind of conserving water and conserving your resources. Okay. So let's do a quick calculation. If every month we use roughly 1,200 gallons of water.
Smiling.
Why?
Water math.
Exactly. Tom is really like the math guru, but it's really simple. If we use roughly 1,200 gallons every month and we have 4 months of dry, that is 4,800 gallons of water. I think how much in total?
Our total storage is 10,000 gallons.
Yeah, so that's like double 4,800. And
yeah, I think that's the mindset you need to have if you want to actually go off grid and live on the water that you catch. Is you have to look at your driest point, the points where you can catch water and nothing will be coming in. How long is that? And for us, it's 4 months. How much water do we need in the 4 months? 4,800. Then we say, what about if the dry season extends beyond the 4 months? We feel that doubling it is just that sweet spot. And I think we have an example, right? We have 2 harvests in Ghana. We've got the major rainy season and we've got the minor one. And the major one is from April to about July. And then the minor one is from September, October to somewhere in November. Here on our farm, we can catch enough water that the tanks actually overflow. And so we know that the tanks are full at 10,000 gallons by the time the second rainy season is over, somewhere at the end of November. And so December, January, February, March, we have no problem because we know we have 10,000 gallons of water. But last year, by the end of the rainy season, the tanks were not overflowing and we had only about
7,000.
Yeah, maybe 6,500 to 7,000 gallons of water left. And so if you take away 5,000 gallons of water, that leaves us with only 2,000. And that's exactly where we were before the rains began, So we had enough storage, we had enough catchment, roof size to actually funnel in as much water as we could into our tanks. So you need to size your system for any events like this, like dry spells and stuff like that.
And then there's also the mistakes that can happen, like with wasting water, like people, members of the family leaving taps on. I'm guilty. There've been a number of times, mom brain leaving taps on. And so it's just sort of like...
Yeah, or even just leaks. In the past, when our system was not as efficient, we would occasionally need to bring in a tanker of water if we had an extended dry spell. And here in Ghana, it's even more important for us now to make sure we're not in that position, because we have lots of pollution coming in through illegal mining, and you don't know where the water is coming from. You don't know how polluted the water is. You don't want to bring that kind of water in. It's such a huge risk. So we have to make sure that we have enough storage, enough catchment to last us more than we actually need. And that's why we have this sweet magical number of twice the amount for our dry season. And then once the rains begin, the tank just keeps getting full and full.
It's, I think if you're on a homestead, it's a principle that applies everywhere. You have to double up, like you have to have more than enough. It applies to solar as well. So for our solar system, we actually upgraded our solar system more recently, and now we used to be like, what, 50% solar?
Yeah, so we used to be half on the grid and half off the grid. So in the daytime, when there's an abundance of, sunshine and whatever, we'll get free power. And since we live and work at home, we use power in the daytime. So that's really big savings. And then in the evenings, we would use utility. But now we've moved from lead acid batteries to lithium batteries. And they're sized appropriately. I think we're able to use 60% by the time we run through the night. And so when we wake up, we've got like 40% of the batteries still left. And if it's not a cloudy day, they quickly get topped up in a few hours. And by midday, the batteries are full and we've got full power again. You need to actually size up more than you need, because there might be cloudy days, there might be an extended period where you just can't get in enough charge, and you need that extra power. So,
and it's been really working for us for a couple of days now, and we've not been on utility.
This is very fresh. This is very fresh. I think it's been less than a week since we've been on our new solar system.
So if you guys want us to do a video on our solar system and how it looks like and how it works, then just leave a comment in the comment section and let us know, and we'll make a video on that. So the rains are back. We had some really heavy downpour yesterday, so we're very excited to collect rainwater
and to get back into gardening
exactly. If you want to know more about our rainwater harvesting system, we have a previous video on our channel on how we harvest our rainwater. We show you our system
the whole thing down,
and how you can do it too. And if you want a more tailored advice, we offer consultation, so you can always send us an email and we'll get back to you. Finally, the results everybody has been waiting for. Tom, your experiment, success or failure?
Okay, so let me just do a quick recap. We did this experiment seeing these two beds in the dry season, bottle irrigation, and the whole aim was to try and grow tomatoes and peppers here on very, very little water. Has it been a success? Yes, but we've also had a bit of failure as well. So let's just come clean. So the peppers right here and there and there and there did well. We've got flowering and we've got fruiting. Not the most impressive fruits in the world, right? But
we've seen better.
But still, it's success.
I think it's very impressive. Right? I think it's very impressive because we usually struggle with peppers.
Yes, that's very
surprising that they all did well, and they just lots of growth and all that. So.
But on the flip side, we have
tomatoes.
We have the tomatoes. I mean, there's a bit of growth. This is actually the lucky guy. Most of them,
man standing.
Yeah, most of them actually died. We had disease affecting our tomatoes, and so they didn't do well. It wasn't a problem with water. I don't think it was much of a problem with nutrition.
Yeah.
But something just didn't go right. It could have been, this weather, the season. So we're learning a lot about the other factors that affect growing food, the genetics of the plants also. Some varieties might thrive with high humidity and others won't. Like these did well during the rainy season. But
in the dry season,
obviously didn't do well in the dry season.
But I think in general, it was a success because the whole point was how can we grow food with minimal water, and this was a success. So we will go back to the drawing board and look more into, okay, what are the other factors that maybe we try and grow different tomatoes to see how well they adjust in the dry season. But this was definitely a success.
But it's all cool, I think that's one of the things about growing food. We don't come from a long line of farmers that have passed down their knowledge, passing down their seeds, We're depending on seeds that we get from commercial places. We don't know where these things have been grown. And so there has to be experimentation, especially if you want to go the way we are going, which is the next thing we're going to work on is low or no input gardening. Lots of the genetics of these plants are just not cut out. They need to be babied a lot.
So I don't like that.
So we want to actually move away from that. And it's a bit of hard work. And so this experiment we're going to run next is a very high risk, high reward thing.
We may not get food to eat.
But we think that it's worth it.
So if you're a lazy gardener, this is good news for you. If you haven't subscribed,
join the lazy gardener team.
Subscribe because gardening is a lot of work. So if we can find a way to do gardening without having to put too much input, I think, everybody will benefit from that. So lazy gardeners, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video, okay?
Bye, guys.